Was there anything from Kevin Warren's address or anything from the buzz around or reporting around Big Ten Media Days that leads you to believe that we are on the verge of more moves in the conference realignment chess game anytime soon?
No.
Okay. Confident?
As confident as you can be. Okay, Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford are being evaluated. Well, duh.
I mean, I think they're being evaluated by everybody. Like,
yeah,
if you think the Pac-12 is about to fall apart, you do your research and you get your book reports together on all these schools so that you don't have to do it in a hasty way if the Pac-12 does fall apart.
Yeah, the Big Ten's not moving again until Notre Dame makes a decision about what it's going to do. And maybe Notre Dame has made the decision, but there's been reports, Notre Dame's out there looking for like $75 million a year in a TV deal. And if it can get that, it's going to stay independent. But if Notre Dame does stay independent and says no to the Big Ten, and the Big Ten has to add 2 schools, which 2 of those 4 together without Notre Dame bring, added value to your television deal and to your conference partners as far as what you'll be able to give out? I don't know that those 2 on their own without like Cal and Stanford, I don't think so. Oregon and Washington, I think, would be the more attractive, but money-wise, do those 2 alone make enough money to make it worth it for everybody in the conference? I don't know. That would be up to the TV markets, but I touched on it a little bit yesterday. Nothing Kevin Warren said this week made me feel good.
If you had to bet, better odds that Stanford and Cal are in the Big Ten in 10 years, or that they're not playing FBS football in 10 years?
Big Ten.
Yeah.
I would go not playing football.
I would say it's more likely they're in the Big Ten, but I don't think they'd be like some huge favorite, because I could see, we've talked about it plenty of times, I could see Cal giving up football. I don't think Stanford's going to give up football.
Right.
See, I didn't think so either, but like I heard Pat Forty talk the other day, and his daughter swam at Stanford, and he was kind of like, I don't know how serious they, you know what I mean? Like they don't have to do this, even though they have all the money in the world. Stanford has the issue where they lose all these kids who should have that extra year because they can't get into grad school at Stanford, right? It's just, it's a tough thing. Dodd did not have Miami, Florida State, and North Carolina, right?
No.
In his report.
No.
McMurphy did. I would put all 3 of those above the Big Ten trying to expand further west, because if the Big Ten's partner is going to be Fox does not have those regionals anymore, right? Because it's Bally's. So they do not have all these super late night TV slots they need to fill. They probably just want to have 1, maybe 2 late night TV slots they can fill. And they can achieve that with the best properties on the West Coast, which they just got. I don't know that Fox needs to have additional late night TV slots to fill, unless that's going to be the secondary partner for the Big Ten needing those. Because Kevin Warren talked about wanting to have a broadcast partner and then more of a digital partner. But I'm not really clear, Tom, like, I know you were listening to it pretty hard. Do you think that meant sort of, we're assuming Fox plus the Big Ten Network as the secondary, or is it like Big Ten Network just exists, Fox plus another thing?
I have no inside information, or I think it'll be Fox. I think the Big Ten Network will still get stuff, and I think there will be another partner, whether that's CBS, NBC, whoever that ends up being. I think they will get some piece of it, but I'm too depressed now because we're talking about this as in, like you just said, well, Fox doesn't need to fill its West Coast slots as badly. Like, that's what this is.
Yeah. This is a college football podcast, and you're doing
and we're talking about
media analysis,
filling time slots for content for their streaming services. Like, this is what I mean.
This is why bowl games exist, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
they're not
there's all these bowls because ESPN needs some content to throw on during the day when you're home from work over the holidays.
Yeah. Like, the conferences are just, their content now. And like I said on yesterday's show, like Kevin Warren said, he was really excited about USC and UCLA because of the content that they'll be able to produce together. Like, dude, I almost swore. It's a football game. Why are we talking about it like it's a freaking YouTube short or it's an Instagram live? It's like, come on. I just hate this. Like, and he said, they're going to disrupt the industry. And like you said, Chip, he's making,
I love that line, by the way. I listened to that.
It's like, yeah, he's disrupting by floating it out. We could, we could be expanding. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to do this. It's like, just run a damn conference, man. You're not running a television network.
So the athletic directors, Iowa's athletic director, I believe, Gary Barta, I believe, he said this several weeks ago. And then even more recently with some of the administrators that were around the Big Ten, it seems like on a school-by-school basis within the Big Ten, they're comfortable where they are. And it's not that they are stating that they are against expansion or any expansion that, like you mentioned, Tom, might include Notre Dame. But as they have been contacted, I think that their analysis is much like we were saying with any of these West Coast editions, where my pie would get smaller. And it was even mentioned in the Dot article that, while USC and UCLA, it was confirmed this week, will be joining the Big Ten as full members, aka full checks that match everything else that everyone else gets. That if you were to add in an Oregon, a Washington, a Stanford, or a Cal, that they might have to get smaller revenue checks. And if that's going to be the case, boy, now we're starting to really disrupt the big happy family. And how are we going to go and figure this out? My sense that I've gotten as it pertains, I want to get to college football playoff expansion too before we get into the mailbag. My sense that I've gotten is that while the Big Ten as a conference might be evaluating all of its next moves, and these next moves might not come for a long time, the conference membership, which has to vote on these issues in order to be able to add new members, are looking at many of the options that are out there available and thinking that adding them to the table only means we get less money per school per year.
Yeah, but I will say for Stanford, a lot of school presidents will happily vote to add Stanford to the Big Ten because then they get to pretend that, we are in the same academic realm as Stanford.
Being a Big Ten school has an academic,
it is, but there aren't many Stanfords in the Big Ten now.
I don't think the Big Ten's going to change its name. Very, very quick sidebar, right? You can't mess up that branding. You haven't changed it, even though you haven't had 10 teams for a very long time. So whether it's 11, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 24, I think we're still calling it the Big Ten, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's all that matters now is the brand. The brand has to be strong.
All right.
The other thing is, last thing. It may not make them more money per school right now, but there is sort of an aspect of we need to try to gather up the best possible additions because we know we're going to go to a bigger conference eventually because we expect the SEC to do so at some point. So even though we may not make more money per school right now, this is protecting us from being a second-class conference compared to the SEC down the line. It's why you want to go out and get the best possible schools that you can, even if in the short term it doesn't make you more money.
Well, here's a question for you. Being quote-unquote second-class to the SEC, what the hell does that even mean? I mean, what's the punishment? Like, what's the downside?
Well, the downside is money, right? And
so our schools are only making $100 million a year. Oh right. God, how are we going to survive? It's a pissing.
That's Kevin
contest.
Warren's job, though. It is a pissing contest.
It's just who can get the biggest check. I mean, who the hell cares, man?
Like fans shouldn't care. I mean, I got into this with Maryland fans, right? Because like Talia was like, "Hey, our goal is to win the Big Ten." I was like, "Well, dude, I mean, it's not your call on this, but Maryland took a check because they needed the money, and they traded the chance to ever win a conference title again in football, basically, unless things drastically change, for the check. Maryland's there now to give you that DC market, that Baltimore market, and to take some losses. That's what it is. So, like, no, you're not going to win a Big Ten title ever, Maryland. Probably. I mean, I'll be dead before they do, I would assume. But it's not really good for fans. I thought about this. Like, why are Mississippi State fans cheerleading the addition of Texas and Oklahoma? That just means that the odds that you have a really special team and that team cashes in with a title decrease because it's two more teams that are better than your program. And it's like, yeah, like how much money we're making now. If you're one of these top tier teams, awesome, cool. The money, you may find a way to spend the money. It really helps you. If you're like Mississippi State, or if you're one of these lower tier teams that actually cares about football, because I think like some of these schools, like if Duke were to join, they don't really give a damn about football for the most part, but they'll be able to like, hey, well, we can use $100 million in basketball pretty well. But if you're one of these lower tier programs that actually cares about football, expansion is not really a good thing for you of these leagues because you're gonna be like, hey man, you remember when that one of our best teams of all time by the power ratings went 8-4?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to happen.
But you could still make the college football playoff if we've got 16 teams and nothing but automatic qualifiers. Because no automatic
qualifiers, none.